Kendal Briles, TCU. So I want to take you back to a couple of months ago when I say that is like 8 months ago when this move is made, and they post the graphic, TCU does, knowing that a lot of fans are going to be upset because of how many years TCU has rightfully, as a rival of Baylor, ragged on the name Art Briles, ragged on the name Briles. Everyone in the conference has given ample mess to Baylor University and the Briles name. Deservedly so. Like that name Briles in college football is one that is forever marred because of negligence. Because there were things that happened, and I'll get to this in the later segment too about Art Briles and Baylor. There were things that happened at Baylor University that Art knew about, that he had information about, players that's come out that he knew they were bad apples, and they did some really terrible things to women and weren't punished to a full extent. They weren't given, like, it would be a Kaz Kazadi, who also works at TCU, by the way, the strength and conditioning coach, would help punish players who had done things that weren't deserving of more push-ups. They weren't deserving of throwing a couple of dumbbells up an extra time or two, but were deserving of not only being kicked off the team, but having legal action taken against these players. And Kendal Briles knew about a lot of this. Kaz Kazadi knew about a lot of this. Art Briles, I was told by a source from Baylor when this happened, they said, you know what? What strikes them about this, nothing happens in a program without the head coach knowing. There's not a rogue staffer. There's not a rogue group of people who hear X, Y, and Z happen and they don't bring it to the head coach, because every assistant is looking for a way up. They're looking for that upward mobility. They don't want to just harbor a scandal within and just, I'm going to keep this a secret and it's going to fall on me. No, they always bring it to the head coach. And the head coach just has a pulse on what happens in their program. I believe the same case was true with Baylor. And I don't think Kendal Briles is innocent. But Art Briles got to be a scapegoat in that way. He got to take attention away from the assistant coaches in that way. He wasn't an innocent scapegoat, but he took the brunt of it, the whole of it, so that his kin, Jeff Lebby, his son, Kendal Briles, his friend, Kaz Kazadi, could continue to coach elsewhere. And TCU, what they did is they decided, you know what? Let's do it. Let's take all of this moral high ground that we got by virtue of Baylor's colossal mistake, throw it out the window and hire the guy with the last name Briles. It is worth it to us to take this guy with shoddy character, bring him on our staff, let him coach at TCU, because we're going to win football games. And you know what? Two things here. One, wasn't worth it. Whether you're going to win football games or not, still not worth it. TCU especially, to have that guy named Briles on your staff. Second most, it didn't work because you're not winning football games. The offense is one of America's worst in the red zone. You've moved the football decently. Chandler Morris never looked peak. Josh Hoover looked good one week and then got spit out, eaten alive against Kansas State the next. The same Kansas State team that gave up 30 points to UCF at home. Yeah. Like you weren't playing Alabama and scored 3 points. You weren't playing Georgia and scored 3 points. You were playing Kansas State and Manhattan. Had you scored 14 points, you'd still be getting scolded. You didn't. You didn't come in double digits of 14 points this weekend. Was it worth it to do this in the beginning before Kendal Briles was bad? No. Is it worth it now? Still no. The red zone offense is terrible. Drives stall out. It looks lackluster. It's like there is tempo or this relative sense of urgency with no completion. Nothing ever comes to fruition of the offense. There's no cohesion here. Even players have talked about how they need to figure out what this offense even is. I think that's good. I think that's worth it, having a guy named Briles. And again, I'm going to get into later in the show how that last name, how there's so much that should fall on more than just Art Briles. That should fall on Kendal, the same guy that wrote his dad's initials across his fingernails. And I've said it, look, if you've got family members who've done bad things before who you still love, it doesn't condone their action to still love that, but it's a natural thing that, oh, wow, it's my dad. He made a terrible, gross mistake. He did something deliberately that was wrong. That's my dad. It's tough. That's tough to balance. But the way this is played out, what went down? You made a decision. You made a decision to hire Kendal Briles, and karma is a beach. Hope it's working out for you. It's not. It's not. This was completely, wholly unnecessary for TCU. Now you're paying for it. And if I have TCU on my schedule the rest of this way, I'm not upset. I'm not scared. I'm not scared about what TCU brings now. It's disappointing for me, someone who dated a girl for 2 years who went to TCU, went to the national championship wearing a TCU jersey despite being a Baylor student. You know how terrible and shallow that is? But I came to love, really, not love, but I came to appreciate TCU while at a rival school, especially that legendary run. And now I look and say, you didn't have to do this to yourself. That was piss poor decision-making. And the sooner Kendal Briles is gone, the sooner I believe TCU will start to win. What about that guy, Art Briles? This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Athletic Brewing Company is near beer. It's where I go to get all of my non-alcoholic brews. Look, I love to drink all of the time. My mom's listening. Non-alcoholic beers. These they taste just like a normal beer, like a normal alcoholic beer. They're award-winning, great tasting, and they beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden sours, and more, constantly releasing a limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety, fit for all times, like working out, tackling work, going to your big game or your kids' game. No hangovers ever. Find Athletic Brewing in-store, online, the best bars around the country. I love their sours. Stupid good. Use code Locked On to get 15% off your first online order at athleticbrewing.com. Athleticbrewing.com. Locked On at checkout for 15% off. Near beer exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times.